Welcome to Movie Story, where we bring your favorite films to life with thrilling recaps and deep dives. Our film begins with Dominica, who lives with her sick mother in a modest house. Dominica goes down to attend a ballet show, where she is the focus of the performance. She invites Lenny to come home to take care of her mother in exchange for money. After that, Dominica arrives at the theater, changes into her headdress, and meets her uncle, Ivan, who introduces her to a man named Dmitry Ustinov. He smiles. At the same moment, an agent named Nat is being chased by the Russian police. They capture him and take him back to the American embassy. When Nat asks for help at the embassy, they confirm that he is American. Meanwhile, the show continues without any problems until an accident occurs at the end. A dancer named Konstantin accidentally steps on Dominica's leg. She is taken to the hospital, where support plates are installed in her leg bones. We discover that Nat is an American spy. His colleagues assist him with the operation he was assigned to, and his colleague, Trish, prepares for Ross to search his apartment. They decide that Nat must return to America until the situation stabilizes. When asked why Nat is doing this, he explains that he is protecting one of his sources, named Marble, who works within the Russian government. One day, Ivan is at his job in the Russian government with General Vladimir and Colonel Dekruf. They discuss Nat's incident, noting that he was released and identified as an FBI spy. They are determined to find out why he was present at the scene when the Russian police expelled him. 3 months pass, and Dominica learns that she can walk again after her operation. She steps outside to smoke a cigarette, then returns home to find her uncle, Ivan, talking to her mother. He tells Dominica that a dancer named Sonia has taken her place in the ballet show. He also warns her that their home will soon be torn apart because the theater was Dominica's primary source of income. The money from her performances paid for their rent and covered her mother's medical expenses. Ivan reminds her that he has not been involved in their lives since her father's death, but he now wants to help them. Ivan gives Dominica an envelope, telling her that he doesn't believe in coincidences. He determines his own destiny. He then greets her and leaves. Dominica opens the envelope and finds pictures of Sonia and Zan on a date. She also finds a recording device and plays it. She smiles as she listens to a conversation between Sonia and Zan, realizing they had planned to hurt her. Furious, she decides to take revenge. She goes to the theater and sees them having sex in the dressing room. Enraged, she attacks them with the crutch she uses to walk. She beats them severely, leaving them bloodied and injured. Afterward, Dominica exits the theater and calls the hospital from a public phone, reporting an accident at the theater. When she arrives home, her hands are covered in blood, but she finds her mother lying in the bathroom. She realizes that Lenny did not come to take care of her mother because the theater had stopped paying her. Dominica tells her mother that they need to act quickly and find a solution to their financial crisis. The next day, Dominica goes to her uncle, Ivan, and learns that state security wants information about Dmitry Ustinov. They notice that Dmitry was admiring Dominica during her ballet performance. Ivan instructs Dominica to get close to Dmitry, gain his trust, and seduce him to gather information. In exchange, he promises to move her mother to a private hospital and cover all medical expenses indefinitely. Left with no choice, Dominica agrees to the offer. On the day of the operation, Dominica meets Dmitry and seduces him. They go together to a hotel room, but suddenly, a Russian state security agent appears and assaults her. They manage to escape from the hotel and reach the intelligence headquarters. There, the agent takes Dominica's helmet, revealing himself to be a man named Sergei, who was sent by Ivan to retrieve her. Ivan and General Vladimir watch the scene through surveillance cameras. The general orders Ivan to get rid of Dominica because she witnessed the operation. However, Ivan insists that she is his niece and that he trusts her. Later, Ivan sits with Dominika, who is furious with him. She accuses him of using her to assassinate someone. Realizing that state security will likely kill her for being a witness, she is left in fear for her life. But her uncle tells her not to be afraid and that there is another way to avoid execution. She must endure brutal training and qualify to become an agent for the Russian government. If Dominika refuses, her uncle will not be able to stop her execution. Left with no choice, she agrees. The next day, Dominika says goodbye to her mother and leaves for the 4th State School to qualify as a spy. Matron, who supervises the training, welcomes her. Matron tells Dominika that she is not allowed to use her real name in the training center. She takes Dominika to her room and informs her that she knows she was a ballerina, that her uncle works in Russian state security, and that she did not come here of her own free will. She warns Dominika that if she does not qualify and graduate, Matron will kill her. At the same time, Nat returns to America, where he receives a summons from the Federal Council. They inform him that he is permanently prohibited from performing missions outside the country. However, some officials push back on the decision, arguing that Nat must continue his work to protect Marble, his Russian informant. Despite their efforts, the council remains firm in its ruling. A few days later, Nat receives another summons. The council informs him that the Russians are still searching for him, which suggests that Marble is still alive. However, Marble does not trust anyone, unlike Nat. The council ultimately decides to let Nat meet Marble in a country near Russia. Marble convinces Nat that he is still reliable and claims to be communicating with another agent. Meanwhile, Russian state security learns of the Federal Council's decision through their spies. They discover that Nat will be traveling to Budapest to contact the spy they want to capture. Ivan devises a plan. He wants to have Nat unknowingly recruit a new Russian spy of Ivan's choosing, allowing Russian state security to gain insight into American intelligence operations. 3 months later, Dominika graduates from the training center and visits her mother. Soon after, she receives a call from her uncle, Ivan, requesting to meet her. She agrees and meets him at a restaurant. Ivan tells her that there is a traitor in a high-ranking position within the Russian government. This spy recently contacted Nat and took a picture with him. Dominika's new mission is to get close to Nat, gain his trust, and uncover the identity of the Russian traitor. Ivan provides her with a passport and an ID under the name Katerina. He promises that if she succeeds, this will be her last mission. She agrees. Dominika travels to Budapest, where she meets her new colleague, Marta, at their shared residence. She learns from Marta that their office manager, Volent Tov, frequently harasses female employees. The next day, Dominika meets Volent Tov to learn more about Nat. He informs her that Nat enjoys swimming and drinking alcohol. To lure Nat, Dominika decides to dye her hair blonde. The next day, she visits the swimming club he frequents and registers her name at the entrance office. Initially, she writes Katerina, but hesitates and changes it to her real name, Dominika. Nervously, she enters the pool, hoping Nat won't recognize her. After her swim, she deliberately leaves a book in her bag that reveals she is Russian. When Nat notices, he comments that blonde hair suits her better. He also mentions that he saw her watching him the previous day. He invites her to meet him at the pool again tomorrow. The next day, Dominika arrives at the pool but does not find Nat. She returns to retrieve her ID card from the office, only to be told that it was lost. The employee assures her that a new one will be issued in Dominika's name. Meanwhile, Nat stays with his colleagues at the American Intelligence Agency in Budapest. He shows them Dominika's ID card, which he secretly took from the office. Noting that the name on it is Dominika instead of Katerina, he deduces that she was a dancer with no prior connection to intelligence work. He also discovers that she is Ivan's niece. Seeing potential in her, Nat decides to turn her into a spy for his own purposes. Determined to gain access to an upcoming event at the American Embassy in Budapest, Dominika visits Volentov's office and requests to be added to the guest list. He agrees but subtly hints that she must start a relationship with him in exchange. Dominika attends the embassy event and observes Tov's wife speaking casually with Bouchier, the chief of staff, as if they are close friends. During the event, Nat calls Dominika by her real name, surprising her. They converse, and she reveals that she is a Russian agent. Nat tells her that he wants them to be friends. The next day, Dominika returns home and finds Marta absent. She searches Marta's room and discovers an envelope containing pictures of Bouchier and his wife in a private setting, revealing their lesbian relationship. Alongside the photos, Dominika finds a $250,000 offer and a plane ticket to London. Marta arrives home and confronts Dominika. Displeased by Dominika's presence at the embassy, Marta hands her a report, stating that it will be reviewed in 3 days. She criticizes Dominika's weak performance. Feeling pressured, Dominika decides to monitor Volentov. She follows him to a bar and demands that he revise the negative report he submitted about her. Instead, he should submit a report stating that she is making progress and needs more time. When Volentov refuses, she provokes him by mocking his sexual inadequacies. Enraged, he strikes her hard in the face. However, Dominika secretly records the entire altercation on video. She warns him that if he does not comply, she will report him for assault, which could cost him his job. That evening, Dominika heads to Nat's house. She had missed his dinner invitation, leaving him waiting for her. When she arrives, she pretends to cry, claiming that her manager assaulted her at work. And she asks Nat about the story of the Russian police chasing him when he was in Russia. He tells her that he was protecting a friend of his. Then Dominika tries to seduce him, but fails and goes to her house. The next morning, Dominika goes to Nat's house, but he is not there. She searches his house for any information about him, takes a cup with his fingerprints in her bag, and leaves. Suddenly, she finds her uncle Ivan at home. He tells her that he is on his way to Vienna because he has a meeting there. He asks about her progress in the reconnaissance on Nat. Dominika tells him that Nat has started to trust her and recently told her about the reason he was protecting Marble. Dominika also tells her uncle that she is working on another mission. She has discovered the presence of a Russian agent in a high position in the American government named Bouchier. She explains that she is working with Marta to lure Bouchier into revealing the name of the Russian spy within the government. Dominika mentions that she will meet Bouchier soon, in London, and needs $250,000 within a week because blackmailing Bouchier alone is not enough. Ivan tells her that he will try to secure the money. He then asks her to bring him his jacket from the room. At that moment, Dominika quickly opens Ivan's passport, memorizes the details, and places it back inside the jacket. She hands it to her uncle and his men. As they leave, Dominika closes the door. When she turns around, she finds Marta pointing a gun at her. Marta tells her that she has been working for a year to expose Bouchier and will not let Dominika take credit for her efforts. Dominika reassures Marta that she will acknowledge her role in exposing Bouchier and will also use the $250,000 to bribe Bouchier. To gain Marta's trust, Dominika tells her the story of Dmitri's assassination by the Russian government. The next day, Dominika travels to Vienna and opens a bank account there. At the same time, Marta goes to Volentov and tells him how they can get rid of Dominika, whom they know as Katerina, as she has witnessed the Russian government's deception. That night, Dominika returns home, but finds Marta tortured and dead in the bathroom. Suddenly, Agent Sergei grabs Dominika's head and forces her to look at Marta's body. He warns her that if she ever reveals security secrets, she will meet the same fate as Marta. Following Sergei's orders, Dominika informs the police in Budapest about Marta's murder. During the investigation, she struggles to recall the details, but then she finds Nat in front of her. Together, they go to an apartment in Vienna. There, Nat asks why her uncle made her a spy. Dominika explains that she had no other choice. It was either this or death. She tells Nat about Dimitri's assassination, and Nat realizes that Dominika is working as an agent for him. She tells him that she needs time to think and sleep. Nat assures her that he will protect her with everything he has, just as he did with Marble. As she lies in bed, Dominika reflects on his words and starts to fall for him. She asks him if she can trust him, and he assures her that her trust will be well-founded. The next day, they both begin working together. Nat instructs Dominika to continue her mission with the Russian government as usual. She sends her report about Nat, and then he takes her to his workplace. Dominika tells them that she needs $300,000 in a bank account in Vienna to bribe and recruit Bouchier as an American informant. They all travel to London. At the hotel where Bouchier is staying, Dominika reacts to Volant's presence and tells him to stay in a distant room to avoid jeopardizing the operation. When Bouchier arrives at the hotel, Dominika introduces herself as Marta's replacement. They go to the room where Volant Tov is waiting. Bouchier confesses that she is a Russian agent. Meanwhile, Nat secretly records everything, both audio and video. Dominika hands Bouchier a bag filled with money in exchange for computer disks containing secret Russian data about the American government. She then returns to her hotel room and hides copies of the disks under the desk, as she and Nat had planned. As Bouchier leaves the hotel with the money, she realizes she is being watched by Russian agents. She tries to evade them, but a car hits her and she dies. Due to Bouchier's death, orders come from above, instructing Volant Tov to take Dominika back to Russia. Nat is desperate, knowing what awaits her there, but unable to save her. Back in Russia, Dominika is interrogated to determine whether she handed Bouchier over to the Americans. She repeatedly denies it. As a result, Osbo subjects her to extreme torture for weeks to force a confession. Finally, Ivan arrives and asks her to tell the truth. Dominika insists that the Americans trust her and that, after enduring such brutal torture, she will be able to extract even more information from them, because they will see how loyal she is. She urges her uncle to send her back to them. Ivan takes her case to the Russian council, and they agree. Dominika returns to America and reunites with Nat, who hugs her tightly, believing she had been killed. She tells him everything that happened during the interrogations in Russia and asks him to make her an American citizen. She wants to live in America with her mother, because if she returns to Russia, she will be killed. Nat agrees. That night, Dominika wakes up to find Nat missing. She searches for him and discovers Sergei tied up. She decides to help him and distracts Nat. They ask Sergei for the name of the American spy in Russia, but he refuses to answer. They begin torturing him, cutting his skin to force him to speak. Suddenly, Dominika grabs a knife from the table and kills Sergei. She then frees Nat from the ropes. Dominika later wakes up in a hospital where she finds General Vladimir himself. He reveals that he is the American spy and wants her to be the one to expose him so she can be honored and promoted to his position. This way, she will work for the Americans while holding a high rank in the Russian government. She contacts Colonel Kruf and informs him about the spy. The Americans make a deal with the Russians. If they return Dominika, they will hand over the spy. On the day of the exchange, a Russian plane arrives with its passenger's face covered. When he removes the cover, it is revealed to be Ivan. It turns out that Dominika framed her uncle. She had opened a bank account in Vienna in his name and had arranged for money to be transferred from the Americans to that account after memorizing his passport details earlier. As Ivan is on his way to the Americans, a Russian sniper kills him. Dominika successfully boards the Russian plane exactly as she planned. Upon returning to Russia, Dominika is celebrated for exposing the spy. During the ceremony, General Vladimir attends and realizes that she is keeping his secret. Now Dominika is a highly influential figure in her country instead of just being a dancer. One day, her phone rings. She hears a piano piece playing. The caller remains silent. She smiles. She only listens to this piece because it reminds her of her love for dancing. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Movie Story for more amazing movie recaps. Let us know in the comments which movie you'd like us to cover next. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next one.